Great. Tony from Old River Hard Goods again. Well, the music you're listening to is Angels Aflight from their CD, Angels on Fire. And as always, the link to the full version and a video I made of it is down there in the description below. And in today's video, we're going to take a kind of a quick look back at 2024. Look at some of the tools, look at some of the travels, look at some other things, a few other topics that might need talking about, and my usual blithering and blathering. But anyways, so let's take a look at the tools and travels of 2024. Now let's start with some tools here. I get lots and lots of tools. Not all of them are great collectibles, just solid users. Some nice plank planes there. The soles on those have bone or possibly ivory, probably bone boxing, partial. Philadelphia mark on them. Still have those guys. I got to get around to cleaning them. Machinist tools. Had a fair number of those. Miller Falls T-auger handles. They always sell well as long as they're in good shape. Nice little hand vise down there at the bottom. And still have that big panel gauge. It needs a piece for it. The problem is, of course, is the length of it. The shipping's going to be kind of prohibitive, so I'll probably be going down to Patina with me if I make it this year. One of the really nice sets of tools I had was this set of Buck Brothers crank neck pattern makers paring chisels. Yeah, that's a mouthful. London pattern handles. Just really, really gorgeous shape. The crank neck gouges are a lot more common than the chisels for some reason. I don't know. I'm sure Buck made about equal amounts of them, but it's just hard to find sets. More molding planes and machinist goodies, a few Lancashire pattern calipers, dividers, and just stuff to sell. One of the nicest pieces I've ever had was this blockmaker's knife or clog knife, hook knife by Charles Hammond of Boston. Hammond's best known for making hammers out of Philadelphia, but in his early years he worked in Boston. And let me tell you, this is probably a one-of-a-kind rare tool, and it was in just super, super nice condition. If I was still collecting, chances are I'd have hung on to this one for a while, because like I said, this is a true one-of-a-kind, very hard to find tool, and I doubt I'll find another one. Well, I recently became aware of the passing of a friend of mine by the name of Walt Henderson. First met Walt on the old tools list back around 1996, 1997, and I believe he purchased a few things, and we kept in touch about this and that, sharing some of the same interests. And then in July of 1998, I was heading with the family down to the Garden City, South Carolina area for a week of vacation, and he invited me to stop by the house so we could meet, shake hands, talk tools for a bit, and it was kind of a nice thing. And Walt had been working as a colonial cabinet maker along with his wife Mary. They were establishing themselves at places like Clogmore Farm, now closed unfortunately, and Mount Vernon. And there at Mount Vernon, Walt was invited to make the coffins for the reenactment of the 200th anniversary of George Washington's funeral, which was held in December of 1999. And as such, he became quite an expert on funeral practices of the late 18th and early 19th century as well. Then in October of 2000, I was invited down to a help out with a black powder Boy Scout shoot camp down in Virginia, and I reached out to Walt to see if he wanted to participate, and they happily did. And this picture here shows the coffin. One of the coffins, he always carried a coffin around after that, doing that for Mount Vernon. And it was pretty much a trademark of his. And you see one of the kids lying in there, who happens to be one of mine. Won't mention names. But anyways, then in April 2001, I went down to the Fort Fred Market Fair for the first time. Stayed with Walt and Mary. They slept in the back of the tent. I slept out in the front of the tent. And it's kind of neat because I never really done anything like that before. And I had just laid out a tarp and started putting stuff out. And I had a whole box, and I'm talking a pretty good sized box, of leatheralls I had accumulated. And I just dumped them out, kicked them around. Next thing you know, people are running from all over. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. You know, I was selling for like $5 a piece then. And, you know, within an hour, I think I was like down to like 20 or so of them. I mean, it was just crazy. But anyways, that was the first of many trips. At that point, they were set up just as you came into Fort Frederick area on the right-hand side. And then we moved down to the back behind the tree line. Of course, by then I had my own tent and set up. But then the one year they wouldn't let us set up back there because of the rain. So we had to move back up out on the road. Of course, meals, especially Saturday night supper, was always a big deal. And we never know who we'd be having company for company. Sometimes it was just us. Sometimes it was one or two people. Sometimes you get a whole bunch of folks there. And there was always plenty to eat, plenty to drink, and just generally a great time. And last time I was down at Fort Fred was 2012, and after that I just stopped going, mainly because I couldn't find enough stuff to make it, make a 3-4 day trip down there worth the while, selling wise. And a couple years after that, Walt and Mary decided to call it quits on the whole reenacting thing. I think Clogmore closed. I think that was back in 2019, but they had gotten out of that, and they just decided it was time to hang up their boots, so to speak. But they did a lot of traveling. Walt was a very active tool collector. Great collection of 18th century planes. A lot of other neat stuff. And so in conclusion, like I say, my old friend, you lived life well, and you will be missed. So rest easy, my old friend. Well, take a look at the travels for the first half of the year. Starting with the winter Jacktown event, Cabin Fever meet, which is coming up the third week in January. It was cold, lots of snow, but of course the world famous Jacktown bonfire to keep everybody warm. Next up was the Patina Tool Show down in Damascus, Maryland. This is the tailgating on the outside on Saturday, which turned into a pretty nice day. Not, I've been there when it was 20 degrees out, so this wasn't too bad. And of course, moving to the inside. And if you have any interest at all in old tools, you really ought to try and get to a show like this. I mean, it's worth the time and the money and expense, because you're going to see lots of user tools, but you're going to see a lot of collectible, one-of-a-kind tools up close and personal. Tools that you'll never see in real life, hardly. And this was my table setup for last year, and not sure what I'll be taking this year, but I know the application will be coming in the email pretty shortly. Then it was back to Jacktown for the May flea market, which unfortunately got a bit on the wet side. Normally that's a pretty full event, and this year it was a little on the muddy side. And then we pulled a quick spur-of-the-moment trip up to Madison Bachville at the beginning of June for their short antique show, their weekend-only one. One of those things where the weather was right, and I was able to get a hotel room real quick, so I figured, why not? And definitely turned into a worthwhile trip, and looking forward to that again, doing that again this year as well. And last up for the first half was Kutztown Summer Show. They have an April show, and I don't have video of it. I don't think they made it for some reason. Maybe the weather was bad and rained out, but this wasn't too busy. It's usually on the dead side, but hey, you just pay your money and take your chances. Well, of course, no video of the past year would be complete without some of the trains. They spent a lot of time and money building up the Nesquehoning passenger terminal area. Of course, there's always the freight trains coming through. This is another one of the passenger runs here. And, they come through 2, 3, sometimes 4 times a day. Passenger ones are on weekends usually, but freight trains are on it several times a day. Sometimes I catch them. I still want to catch a night one. I haven't caught a night one in a while, so I just got to work on that. Well, here's one of the track machines. I did do a video on the creation of the new station. Talked a bit about some railroad tools, but unfortunately not too many people decided it was worth watching. Well, what are you gonna do, right? I think it's fun. Other folks have told me it's fun. They like them, so I'll keep sticking them in here and there just to wake people up from time to time. Especially when the old iron horse, here we go, comes rumbling through. A completely restored steam locomotive. They do have another one, but that one, I haven't seen that all year, so they might be reworking it or working on it, I don't know. I have some stills of it, don't have any really good video, but hey, you can smell this guy for quite a while, coal burner. But, I say, it's fun. Of course, restorations are a big part of what I do here, and of course, part of my videos over the past year and previous years. This is a Sergeant hewing hatchet that I did. Has the original haft on it. And that one came out really nice. I mean, it wasn't too bad to start with, but still needed some work. Hand vise. Whoa, this guy was gnarly. I mean, I try to stay away from them if they're in this kind of shape, but I did try the screw, and the screw worked, and I figured, well, the screw worked, the joint worked, give it the old gung-ho. That's pretty much what it is. That's why it's on the paper, too, because rust is going everywhere and making a mess out of things. And got it taken apart, got the screw knocked out of it carefully, and it was off to the cleaning wheel. I do think I did some sanding on this guy too, because it was pretty rough, but turned out not too bad. I mean, everything worked. The jaws weren't too bad, and screw held and still was captive, so You know, the goal is just to make it back into a good-looking working tool, and I think I succeeded at. Another restoration, and this one was featured in a video earlier this month, this pair of hand-forged water pipe augers. And I'm not going to talk too long about these guys because, like I said, there's a whole video up there you can go watch, since not too many people seem to find that topic interesting, but you think they would if they're into old tools, but who knows, right? Did a bunch of chisels this year. These were three somewhat recent ones. Gouge there, that was a Butcher Gouge and a Buck Brothers, and I forget who made the lower one, the paring chisel, but it might have been a Sheldon. But anyways, they cleaned up pretty nice, and the Sheldon and the Butcher sold. Buck is still kicking around here, but like everything else, it'll sell eventually. Hoping I can keep finding chisels. And another restoration I did, this was somewhat recent, was this Starrett number 85 extension divider. Of course, I tucked it in at the end of the video, the restoration video, and not too many people watched it, of course, but you'll have this. But, you know, if you never take one of these guys apart, there are some tricks and little bit of gotchas that can happen and things you should be aware of. So you might want to look that one up. It's not too far down the list. It's 2 or 3 down from this one, maybe 4 at most. I haven't put too many videos out this month, so. And don't forget about the chickens. They show up from time to time. Of course, I get to listen to this every morning. Bok, 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 bok. There's a few ducks in there as well, so. Hi ho, hi ho. Well, this year I celebrated my 30th anniversary of selling old tools back in May. Some images from early tool shows. That was the York Midwest show from years back. Here we got the Browns dealer sale. It was held in Harrisburg, PA. Picture from Patina a good 20 plus years ago. And then a couple from Fort Fred. One very rainy and cold weekend. And of course, back to the travels. I logged over 18,000 miles of driving, 1,300 miles of walking. I average about 3.5 plus miles a day walking. So, but here we are back at Jacktown for the summer show. The weather was gorgeous. The pickings were solid, and it was just a fun time. Here we get the old hitting this machine, a rumbling and a bumping, and they're always fun to watch. At least I think so. And then it was down at the end of July for a quick trip to the Gunmakers Fair down in Kempton. I haven't been down to this place in a long time, and I just figured it was time, and got to see some old friends, missed a couple of guys from Jersey that were hoping to catch up with me, but well, maybe we'll see them someplace somewhere else. Just some gorgeous, gorgeous crafts. This redware display was just out of this world. Lots of sashes and shooting pouches and stuff like that. I mean, it just was worth the trip. And then it was back up to New York from Madison Bachville. 3 days of picking in the summer fun. It was a bit overcast. I think we had some rain 1 or 2 days, but a little bit one day. But, you know, it's just kind of a classic view driving in there and people pulling off and just hitting the tents and seeing what's out there. This place is more of as much of a big flea market as it is an antique show, and you just never know what you find. I mean, this guy's tent's got tons of stuff. I'd done really well buying tools there last year, and this time I had got some stuff, but you just never know. You got to keep looking. And of course, September Kutztown, which I never posted this video before, so this is virgin. It was kind of rainy, drizzly. The vendor turnout was very light, and I managed to snag a couple things. This was kind of neat. I didn't buy this because the guy had it priced up, but this is a World War II Diston chain link saw. I mean, original handles, really nice shape. Crazy price on it. Well, at least for him, but you know, still kind of a pretty hard to find piece. And then it was back to Jacktown for the fall. Doing a thing there, watching the moon early in the morning, and just did okay there. Of course, here we got the tractor. This one had kind of a wild paint job on it. Oh, it's stuff like this that makes these kind of shows fun to watch and go to. And of course, we'll be getting ready to start it all over again in a couple of weeks. And of course, the shop is still here. The workbench is still buried. Still got some free space here. I can move stuff around and have room to work on things, and kind of start in on a Stanley pile. Need to work on that. I should sell that glue pot. That needs to be depainted a bit. There's a big old mass shave down there. Lots and lots of hammers on the floor. That stuff's been really slow to sell of late. Got this big panel gauge. That'll probably be going down to patina because it's just too long. I mean, the shipping on that would be crazy high just because of the length, not because of the weight. But need to make a piece for it. We'll get around to that sooner or later. And still lots and lots of tools. I did find out from my one guy that used to do the 5-minute flea market stuff with that he's kind of gotten out of it. I'd reached out to him a couple weeks ago to see if he had stuff for me, and he said, "Oh, I sold all it off." Surprising, but he's been threatening. He's been kind of retired for years now. And for those of you who don't know, the 5-minute flea market, the term came up with during the COVID wars back in spring of 2020, when he and I would meet in a parking lot of a fire company, and I'd hand him piles of cash and he'd hand me piles of tools. Of course, it was kind of clandestine, kind of illegal, but kept me going during the lean periods when there was no flea markets to go to, no tool shows, no nothing. So and folks say, "Oh, you got all that stuff there." Well, yeah, but you know, like everything here, it needs a lot of work. So, but we're gonna get to it eventually. If not, we're gonna sell it. Who knows, right? And that's all for this one, folks. I want to thank everybody for their support this year. Hopefully, we're going to keep doing these things. Got a few ideas in line for next year already. You know, if I can find the right tools, I could make some really, really neat videos. It's just a question of finding the stuff, which ain't getting any easier. But you'll have this. But anyways, wishing everybody a safe and happy New Year's, and we'll catch you the next time. Bye.